Well, as much as it feels like it, the Diamondbacks can't win them all, and they got rocked tonight by the Mets. We have more on that terrible fifth inning, and of course, maybe a political ad or two. Right now on the PHNX D-Back Show. Let's go! Ugh. I don't like that song anymore, Damon. I do not like that song. But I do like being here with you all. Welcome in to Circle K's Studio K right here at PHNX Studios. Of course, my name is Derek Montilla, occasionally known as your mayor of PHNX. And this is the PHNX D-Back Show, brought to you by our friends at Bet365. Go download the Bet365 app right now and use code PHNX365 when you sign up. Choose your offer and find out why it is never ordinary at Bet365. And our guy Bees, who is a known representative for the people in the chat, says it best when he says here, chat, I am bamboozled by this performance. Not upset, just bamboozled. Like, what the fuck even was that game? And I don't know. I don't know what that game was. I don't know what that fifth inning was. And of course, that's where everything kind of turned sideways for this Diamondbacks team. We thank you guys all for being here. Of course, again, I am your mayor still and will be when all is said and done. So there's no worries about that. Of course, I am here with the people's producer, Damon Dog, who before we get into this show, I want to issue a public apology to, because I questioned this man's loyalty after what occurred on this show yesterday, with Archie here and the Espo thing and the embarrassing me. But this man, much like the Diamondbacks, was kind of railroaded into this. And I would like to take back any accusations of him not being aligned with me. I think I'll let the rest speak for himself. I'm not going to talk for Damon and say that he in any way endorses me as mayor just yet. But I will say that I questioned his loyalty, and I was wrong to do so yesterday.
Due to the Communications Act, Derek, we are, hereby legally required to play all political parties' ads.
I found this out.
And give equal opportunity to all parties on our
lawyers
show.
Contacted me actually.
Yeah,
about this.
So I mean, that was not a display of me stabbing you in the back. It was just a display of me following the law.
I get it.
And that being said, I believe we might have a certain political ad later in the show lined up that was paid for as well, that we can't legally tell them that they can't play it.
Okay, I don't like that sound of that. That might be another Espo ad, but I'm not sure. Things are getting very dirty around here. And much like this game was a filthy game. It was an ugly game. Diamondbacks, of course, lose to the Mets 8-3. They are now 75-57 this year, which at least is a fun little, number combination there. But more importantly, the Diamondbacks are 10-10 this season in games following an off day. So I guess I have to once again question, do you really want to win the division and have like a week off before you play another baseball game after seeing this display today? I don't know. But the Snakes didn't win the margins in this game, that's for sure. And Brandon Pfaadt was not great. The pitching was not great. The bats were silent for the majority of this game. This was just a flat-out loss to the Mets. Sean Manaea absolutely had the Diamondbacks just befuddled, if you will. And, of course, the Diamondbacks pitchers weren't really fooling anyway. Brandon Pfaadt relied on his sweeper a lot, as he does. He relied on the four-seam fastball. It just wasn't really fooling many batters. It wasn't like he was missing much. He was just getting a lot of extra base hits. There were a lot of extra base hits off of Brandon Pfaadt tonight. In fact, the Mets had 5 extra base hits. I believe they were all off Brandon Pfaadt. I could be wrong about that, but felt like they were all off Brandon Pfaadt. His line was 4 2/3 innings pitched. He gave up 8 hits, 8 runs, 6 of them earned. He walked 1 and struck out 6. It was probably the worst implosion we've seen of Brandon Pfaadt in a while, as far as his reliability, his ability to go deep in a game. And mostly, we've always talked about Brandon Pfaadt giving up that big inning. The Diamondbacks were down 2-0 prior to that 5th inning. And that 5th inning was basura for this team. They absolutely stunk it up. And it wasn't just the pitching's fault in that one. They got some awful defense behind them. Brandon Pfaadt got pulled out of the inning with after 2 outs, 4 2/3 innings pitched again. And they brought in Jordan Montgomery for his first appearance out of the bullpen. And guess what? It did not go well, surprisingly. At least initially, it did not go well. Monty comes into the game with, bases loaded, I believe, at that point, and 2 outs. Just had to get 1 out. Just had to look, somewhat serviceable out of the bullpen. And what does he do? He hits a batter with the very first pitch he throws and walks in a run. Then he proceeds to actually walk in a run without hitting the next batter. And then the third run scored on, what was it? It was the Perdomo error, which Perdomo just looked awful at times in this game defensively. I mean, even at the plate, he looked bad. It was a really bad night for Jerry P. You got anything to say over there in defense of your guy?
I mean, I was the one that told you when he popped up.
He did.
Late in the game, I was like, it's been a tough game. It's been a tough game for Perdomo Hive. And we'll recover. But yeah, it was the worst Perdomo game we've seen in a while. It
really was. It was unfortunate. And this was just a bad game. And I mean, the Diamondbacks are allowed, I think, to have those bad games, right? They're not immune to it. They're not, they're not perfect, despite the fact that they feel like they were playing what felt like perfect baseball there for a while. But this one, of course, this one's a bit of a shock. I mean, at least it's all in one game. Diamondbacks still have a chance to win the series. They still have 2 more games here against the Mets. This is just an important, series, obviously, with the implications here of the Mets making up ground in the wild card race, and also with the Diamondbacks being as close as they are to the Dodgers. But at least Jordan Montgomery, after that 5th inning, on the bright side, he did settle in nicely after that, and he gave the Diamondbacks 3 scoreless innings, or actually 4 scoreless innings. He went 4 2/3 innings pitched, 5 hits allowed. He didn't allow any runs because he wasn't on the hook for those runners on the base. So he has 0 earned runs in this game, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, the 1 hit by pitch. So, I mean, if you do want to look at Jordan Montgomery outside of the inherited run situation, and given that this is all new to him, he did do a good job of at least saving the bullpen, which is exactly what Torey Lovullo said that he was going to do prior to this game. He said if we were going to see Jordan Montgomery, it was going to be long relief when a guy was struggling, and Jordan Montgomery was probably going to come into the game and finish the game out. And that's what we saw today. That is a unique weapon that Torey now has out of the bullpen. As much as we want to look at this in the negative, and obviously be very I was in the middle of talking Thunderbolt, but I'm not going to put up with this shit. I'm not going to put up with we already are going to concede the next 2 games because the Diamondbacks lost game 1. So let's calm down, okay? Again, the Diamondbacks are 10-10 this season when it comes to games after a day off. So they have not been very good. They've been better lately, but they're still not good. When you look at this team's overall record, being 10-10 on days off after games after a day off just kind of shows that they're not really sharp coming off after this. But I'm not going to sit here and immediately concede because they lost tonight's game. This was 1 bad inning, 6 runs allowed in the 5th inning. Outside of that, I hate to be that guy, but outside of that, the Diamondbacks actually did enough, despite their bats going silent for basically 7 innings, to actually win this game if that fucking terrible inning doesn't go the way it does. But yes, the Diamondbacks did only have 1 hit until the 7th inning, and you can blame the offense a little bit for the way this game goes because, again, they were being held in check by Sean Manaea and the Mets there. So, but Corbin Carroll, in good news, is still hitting home runs. That's a positive. He hit a 2-run home run in the 7th inning, and the Diamondbacks now have 40 home runs since August 1st. Which is second in baseball behind the New York Yankees. So, again, something to continue to be impressed by with this team, considering we had no idea at times where the power was going to come from for this team. But
some people thought it was going to be Gabby Moreno. Can you believe that?
Allegedly. I mean, allegedly. Some people smoke a lot of pot. I'm just saying. Some people's brains are filled with hops and bong resin. Okay, so not everything is always going to be. We can't always predict the future, especially like that. My freezing cold take about the Diamondbacks being 2 up in the division after that Dodgers series might not be the case, but that dream is still alive. But again, that ugly 5th inning thing just fell apart for the team, and it sucks because again, outside of that, this team actually did play some fairly good baseball in this game, but their defense was really bad. And again, all it takes sometimes is one bad inning. I will ask you guys this, though, and I would love to hear your response in the chat. After Corbin hit that home run, despite the fact the Diamondbacks were down 8-3, did you believe? Did you start believing? Because in what world would we believe that the Diamondbacks could come back from an 8-run deficit? This world, because I believe that, and I'm sure there were some of you out there that once they started going, you were like, all right, now we're talking. We got Manaea out of the game. We got some things rolling. I mean, I definitely believed. And so, but Pro Cannon knew it was over. And of course, thank you guys all for being here in the chat. I do have to say, though, that Perdomo has been very good prior to this game as far as his defense is concerned, even though it fell apart there, including not just the error there in that inning, but he just played some balls really poorly, right? Like, I think Perdomo is like one of those guys like Christian Walker, where we get kind of used to him making some very good plays over there and making them routinely, that when we see him have an inning like he had, you could just tell he just wasn't handling things well in that stretch. He's very
steady.
Yeah.
He may not be the type of shortstop that's making like the wow plays that you see out of like the best defensive type shortstops, but he doesn't make mistakes that often. So when he does, it's pretty glaring.
Yeah. He had one error in 59 games prior to tonight.
Yeah, that's not shocking.
Right?
Yeah.
It's really not. I mean, I think there was only one shortstop in the league that had a better fielding percentage over that span than Perdomo. So, you know, again, there's going to be some bad nights, and tonight just felt like an off night all the way around for this team. It just this is one of those games that, to pull the curtain back a little for you, I hate planning a show after a game like this or during a game like this, because I have no idea what direction it's going to take. Even after the Diamondbacks were down 8-0, I still was not ready to fully commit to a headline that says the Diamondbacks, get rocked by the New York Mets. So even then, it changed a little bit. This team is still special, and again, we're going to have nights like this. The big thing is that there are a lot of tough opponents ahead. We've talked about this stretch. We've said it's not easy. I think we've gotten used to dreading the schedule a little bit and then seeing the Diamondbacks come through. So hopefully that's the case here. But this is a tough stretch. There's no way to sugarcoat it. You got the Mets, who are very much in the wild card race, very hungry, and right now are just playing really good baseball too. You got the Padres. I think the Padres lost today, right? But the Diamondbacks could potentially end up with finishing out their season with like 6 straight games against the San Diego Padres on the year. Like, did they?
The Padres were down a run going into the 7th and then scored the final 3 runs of the game to win.
Goddamn Padres. Yeah, see, that's what it is. So, but I mean, this is a tough time, and then they have the Dodgers after that. So the Diamondbacks have to play their best baseball, and they definitely did not do that today. And I think I got our guy Thunderbolt to come back down to reason a little bit, but he was right. He's right about Perdomo. He said, not the fans comment, that's him being insane again, but he said he was missing the most basic plays. And you're right. That's what it felt like during that inning. That does not help when the pitching was already struggling. That does not help when things are going poorly. I mean, you had, Jordan Montgomery coming in with all those inherited runs, and he hits a batter, he walks a batter, and then, things continue due to that error. So this was just one of those really ugly games. And you guys are right. Maybe they want us to revoke King Snake tonight. I'll consider it. I will consider it. I'm not saying I'm committed to revoking King Snake. I'm just saying I'll consider it. But I do thank you guys all for being here in the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. Of course, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you sign up for notifications. Don't miss all of that great stuff. Make sure you leave us a review on the audio podcasting side if you're listening over there. Make sure you're subscribed on your favorite audio podcasting app if you haven't done that already. And hit that like button. That's the most important thing. On a night like this, I'm feeling empty of self-esteem. I have nothing left to give, and those like buttons definitely. Do I call it likes? It's just likes, right? When I say the like buttons, does that make me like an old person? I feel like that's like
kinda,
Steve calling it the Twitter, right? Oh boy, yeah, it creeps up on you fast. Johnny Walker, again, old friend of mine from elementary school, says, "Go D-backs." I'm just joking. That was a callback to an old joke.
The views of Derek Montilla do not represent the views of PHNX.
Correct. Yeah, he's got to do that thing again. It's rough, but of course we'll have more on this game. Of course, the count, maybe King Snake or not when we come back here from break. But first, Of course, we got to thank our friends at Sanderson Ford as our official vehicle sponsor. I love our friends at Sanderson Ford. Their team over there is incredible. I'm sure you guys have seen the crazy commercial that they memed me and Jesse on, and you know, all the things that we did over there. They have a wonderful staff over there who's just really dedicated to helping you find a vehicle that fits your personal needs. And that was an awesome part about taking my Ford Bronco Sport Big Bend out, is that afterwards, the first thing our guy Lauren over there asked me was like, how'd you like it? And, you know, like, what are your thoughts on like maybe a full size, and like, what are your thoughts on maybe a different vehicle? Like, he really wanted to see, you know, what I was looking for and what options I wanted and things like that. And this is from a man that doesn't even and knows that I'm not going to buy a vehicle anytime soon, just trying his best to help me out and show me all the options that they have over there. And right now, of course, if you are in the market for a vehicle, it's a great time to do so, because the Sanderson Ford family over there, which has been owned and operated through 3 generations, they're pushing for the playoffs, and you get the payoffs like deals on that Ford Bronco I was talking about, the 24 Ford Bronco Sport Big Bend, just ranked highest quality in its segment by J.D. Power, plus 0% financing for 36 months with no payments for 90 days on Ford F-150, Escape, Edge, Explorer, and the Expedition. A lot of E's in there, a lot of E trucks. The Sanderson Ford Summer Sale event is here now, and they're teaming up with the Boys of Summer for a final Playoff Payoff Sale. Purchase or lease any new Ford and get 4 tickets for your family to see the D-backs push for the playoffs. Get 0% for 36 months OAC from Ford Credit. See dealer for details. Oh, and of course, Bet365 makes a night like tonight so much better, especially with the live in-game betting. If you got down on a Corbin Carroll home run in the middle of the game, that bad boy hit. Of course, new customers right now can sign up and use our code of PHNX365. And when you do, you deposit $10 and choose between 2 offers. You can either get a bet and get offer where you place $5 bet or more, and you get $150 in bonus bets, or you can get a first bet safety net offer by placing up to $1,000 bet. And if your qualifying bet loses, you receive a matched refund in bonus bets. So check out everything Bet365 has to offer right now, including their baseball early payout offer, where you are a winner if your team goes up by 5 runs. And that includes same game parlay selections and parlay selections. So all of those are marked as winners when you go up by 5 runs over there at Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use code PHNX365 when you sign up. Choose your offer and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or over and physically located in Arizona. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, text NEXT STEP to 53342, or visit problemgambling.az.gov.
And now to our regularly scheduled political advertising.
What?
When tough times come, PHNX needs tough leadership. But Espo, he's just another LeBron James fanboy.
I would take a James Jones suspension, a $2 million fine for LeBron James. Go ahead and do that. I don't care. Violate the rules. It's like if you're going to get arrested for shoplifting, don't do it for gum. Do it for like a... Right?
Doesn't follow the rules. Endorses shoplifting. What else is he capable of? Espo, he's not just radical, he's dangerous.
I don't care. Violate the rules.
Ethical Standards and PHNX Officials is responsible for the content of this advertisement.
Wow. That's not a good look for Espo. That's crazy. Anyway, I don't know. That's pretty
Type of ad that makes you think a little bit.
It really does. It makes you wonder like who you really want the future of PHNX in the hands of, right? I don't know.
You
Crazy.
think you know a guy.
You really do. And then next thing you know, he wants to violate rules and, you know, have suspensions and
Shoplifting's okay.
Giving up draft picks, like as if this team can afford to give up draft picks.
Yoshi throwing in third party.
Well, you might have to check out the Discord, Yoshi, because I unfortunately had to reveal the reason why the Coyotes moved. And that reason, of course, is because under my mayorship, I may or may not have trusted my friends too much, you know, to take care of business, to make sure, and again, not to throw any shade Steven Peters' way, but just to acknowledge the fact that he reassured me time and time again that the Coyotes were not relocating, so there was nothing for me to worry about. So I promise in my future term that I will not put my trust in these people anymore going forward, nor should you come election day in November. Moving on, let's take a look at the count presented by Desert Financial Credit Union. And of course, this one's pretty ugly. Though those hits are definitely wrong because the Diamondbacks did not get 13 hits. Those are swapped, but of course, 8-3 is the score in this one. The Mets out hit the Diamondbacks 13-7. Runners in scoring position, 4 for 16 for the Mets, 0 for 4 for the Diamondbacks. Extra base hits, 5 of them for the Mets, a majority of them all off of Brandon Pfaadt there. 3 for the Diamondbacks, 1 double, 1 home run there. And, of course, the expected batting average, which you all asked for and wanted so badly, 288 for the New York Mets, 148 for the Arizona Diamondbacks. We're going to update it. It was never wrong in the first place. I don't know what we're talking about.
You can't prove it.
I definitely not right now live on the show, but I'm sure we'll talk about it. What about hard hit percentage? You guys killed it. That's how. No, Maze Devil, you're wrong. We did not have 13 hits. I don't know what you're talking about. We never saw that graphic ever. But, of course, you guys were right. We probably shouldn't give out a king snake. I'm going to anyway, though, because, I'm kind of hard-headed and I do what I want. So, of course, let's give it to our guy Corbin Carroll for that dinger. Corbin Carroll continues to hit a lot of home runs for the Arizona Diamondbacks, and he moved one step closer to getting Damon over here a win for his futures bet. So I mean, that's really why you got King Snake tonight.
Can I not lie? I mean, that was where my mind went to when he hit the home run.
That's absolutely where mine went to for sure, but. Maze Devil said, how the fuck did we have 13 hits? And they said, how the fuck did we have 7 hits? That's a very valid point. I have no idea how those things added up to whatever
like
this game was.
Photoshop to me, but I have no idea.
It really does. It really does. Of course, we do have a fun video for you guys to check out over on the PHNX Sports YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. But we do have Torey talking all about the fun fantasy football draft that this team did, in which Torey got to help out on picking the order in which the draft was going to take place by hitting numbered balls out at Fenway. Torey told us today he really wanted to rip one over the big green monster, but he also told us he hasn't taken BP since like 17, I think he said. That's like 7 years. That's a very long time. But I did ask Torey about doing things like this. We know Torey tends to have all of these little fun events. We know about the petting zoo and the cornhole tournament. We know about him doing this. And, it's not something every manager does. So here's Torey on the importance of him kind of, having these moments with his team during the season and I guess offering these moments of fun and relief for them.
Yeah, I think it's needed. I talk about balance here all the time, days off, take advantage of it, spend it with your family, friends, children. So this was a totally different element, and they see the side of me from time to time. We have a mid-season team party at our house, and they see a different side of me there. It's a cornhole tournament, and I think it's nice to see the human side of your manager. In years past, the managers I played for was very guarded. I don't even know what kind of car they drove. I don't know where they lived. I didn't know if they were married or anything like that. But the game's changed a little bit. So when I can give them that side of me, I think it refreshes them to see that I'm a human being at the end of the day. And there's a nice balance there. But they know that they have responsibility to do on the back side of that. It seems to work out very well.
So this is something you don't think Sparky would do?
Sparky would have never done this in a million years. No chance. Not a chance. Not a chance. He would have laughed at it. No way. No way.
Torey often talks about his manager Sparky like as if it was like the parent that you don't ever want to be like. Like you respect your parent and you love them, but you're like, I'm never going to be that kind of dad. And that's Torey with this team, of course. That's why he's so beloved by his players. But of course, we do have Jesse Friedman here joining us from Chase Field. Is my thunderstick, but maybe not my vice mayor with the way he was talking in the office today about endorsing Espo. But whatever, that's fine. We'll get him in here shortly. Is he here? He's here. There he is. Jesse, you trader, welcome into the show. It's a rough night for all of us around here. Espo's getting attacked by some unknown super PAC. There's commercials airing on our show. And, of course, the Diamondbacks got shell-shocked here a little bit by the Mets losing 8-3. That fifth inning was pretty terrible.
Yeah, it was brutal, Derek. The Mets weren't necessarily hitting the ball all that hard in that inning, but it just felt like every single batted ball was just sort of out of grasp of the Diamondbacks defender. It was a particularly rough night for Geraldo Perdomo. I'm sure you guys have probably touched on that already. He made an error in that inning, and there were a couple of other balls that I think he probably normally would have been able to make a play on that for whatever reason it just was an off night for him, both defensively and at the plate. He went 0 for 4 with a couple of strikeouts. But yeah, you're not going to win every game if you're the D-backs, right? I mean, this team has won 6 games in a row. This one, I think you could still find a little bit troubling in some ways, just given that it was sloppy, it was ugly in a lot of different ways, but it is still only one game. I wouldn't be too concerned about it if I'm a fan of this team. We've seen time and time again the Diamondbacks, play an ugly game and then very quickly bounce back and start to look like the team they've been over the last month and a half, which is, the best record, the best team in all of baseball.
Entering the month of June, Jesse, they were 1-7 in games following a day off, but now they've actually got things back on track a little bit, including winning a doubleheader after a day off. They are 10-10. But they have still not been extremely good in days following a layoff. So I guess my question to you is, have you changed your tune about wanting to win the NL West?
I mean, you mean like as far as whether I think the bye is actually something that you should want or not? Yes, you still want the bye, Derek. I'm not going to back off that. I know that our pal Archie has maybe had a slightly more nuanced approach to that question. And I get that he's the player and I'm the know-it-all journalist who pretends to understand exactly what
he said it himself. I didn't call him the know-it-all journalist this thing. He said it himself.
But at the same time, my opinion is what it is, Derek. I mean, if anyone could maybe convince me otherwise, it probably would be Archie, but he's going to have to keep trying because I'm still not there.
We'll get you there. So. We'll get you there. Bunch of compliments for your haircut in the chat, including one from Torey when we entered the press conference today. Yeah, Torey complimented Jesse's haircut when he came in.
Do you think this whole Jesse not liking his haircut thing in the morning was just a ploy for everyone to tell him how good his haircut looked all day? Because that's crazy. Torey told him nice haircut. Yeah. The whole chat flooded comments, nice haircut.
Meanwhile, the new guy, Kevin, was like, don't worry, it'll grow back, is what he said. And Jesse wasn't supposed to take that as a dig. I felt like it was a dig.
Clearly I did not get unanimously positive feedback because Kevin, I appreciate the way that Kevin went about it. He did not go out and just straight up tell me that it was bad, but he took the approach of trying to give me hope for the future, which, yes, helpful, but also we know what you really thought, Kevin. Yeah. You can't hide it from me. So.
Well, if of course, if you want to join Jesse Friedman at Chase Field there, a great place to do so is through Game Time. We always talk about how great Game Time is, but you can save up to 60% on last-minute ticket deals, and we really mean that. There were some tickets going for tonight's game for next to nothing, and of course, especially if you're waiting last minute, you can get on there and save even more with exclusive in-app deals and select seats ahead of the game or event. Of course, save even more when you choose a section and just let Game Time choose for you. Right now, they want us to let you know, though, that those tickets for the Dodgers versus the Diamondbacks on Labor Day are 50% off. We are off here on Labor Day, so we might just pick up some of those tickets and join you at Chase Field. So make sure you don't miss out on 50% off on tickets for the Dodgers and Diamondbacks game on Labor Day, exclusively on Game Time. This is a limited availability and a limited supply, so get your tickets while they last. And of course, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, well, of course, I need to fill up at Circle K on my way home. I know Damon and I, we were planning maybe a joint trip to go there and just go crazy on the Froster machines. Just be kids, get every flavor in our Frosters, right?
Tough L tonight, it's a treat yourself to a Froster.
It's a treat. Yeah, you got to get over this.
You
one,
guys,
right? A little suicide Froster action for sure.
Will you guys wait for me because I also need to fill up my car?
Yeah. I mean,
head home tonight.
By the way, there's a great day to do so. The anniversary of the Inner Circle is happening. You can get 40 cents off gas here very soon at Circle K. So do not miss out on that event. I believe that is on the 29th, if I'm not mistaken. So 2 days from now.
Yeah.
So go fill your tank up on Thursday, get 40 cents off gas. And of course, sign up for the Inner Circle. It's for free. You can join that Inner Circle simply by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. But when you do, you'll save 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. So you go on Thursday, get the 40 cents off, join the Inner Circle, save 25 cents off per gallon every day after that. Not every day, but your first 5 fill-ups after that. And then you'll save 3 cents off per gallon every day after that as a member of the Inner Circle. So do not miss out on stopping by America's Thirst Stop, and especially on a night like tonight, go try every flavor of Froster that they have. It's a great idea. Jesse, what else you got from tonight's game? Because I know this one is one of those ugly ones. I'm sure Torey would be like, let's flush this one and move on. And I mean, this team with the way they've been playing lately, they deserve to be able to have a bad night and flush it and move on. But I mean, again, this is a tough Mets team and a tough series that they still have ahead of them.
It is, yeah. I mean, you got Luis Severino tomorrow, who's had a pretty darn good season for the Mets, going up against Eduardo Rodriguez. I know there was, I feel like I've seen this question on Twitter a whole bunch, like, why did Brandon Pfaadt start today and not tomorrow, when it had previously been announced that they were swapping places? My understanding is that that was just a clerical mistake that was made at some point, and that was never actually happening. The D-backs were never planning to swap those guys. So that's really a non-story. But anyway, yeah, this is an important series for the D-backs. The Mets are the team right now that presents the biggest challenge for the Diamondbacks postseason run, right? For them to make the postseason in the first place. The Mets are the best team right now in the National League that is not currently in the playoff picture. And yes, the margin there is still pretty big. I believe it's 6 games as of right now. So the D-backs have a nice cushion. Their chances of making the playoffs are still very, very good. But this series was an opportunity to try to just put aside any doubt whatsoever about whether the D-backs would be able to finish the job and get to the postseason, and just sort of focus on, what the seeding was going to look like at that point. And this Mets team has posed some problems for the Diamondbacks over the years, Derek. I mean, I think back to last season when the Mets were here. I think it was July 4th through 6th. It was right at the beginning of the Diamondbacks' devastating tailspin.
They broke us. It
was a very ugly series. Yeah, the D-backs got swept. And you look even over the past several years. I mean, in 2022 and in 2021, the Mets won both of those series at Chase Field as well. So the D-backs have now lost 8 of their last 10 games against the Mets in this ballpark. So I don't know if there's anything to that, if it actually is predictive in any way, but the D-backs have struggled against the Mets here at Chase Field over these past few years. And, it'd be really, really good if they were able to find a way to turn things around.
Well, we have more here on tonight's game. And of course, a big part of the way things went there in the 5th inning was Brandon Pfaadt kind of letting things fall apart. Jordan Montgomery coming in and just really struggling to get out of the blocks as a reliever in his first outing for this team out of the bullpen. And even though that 5th inning went the way it did, I mean, he still recovered fairly nicely and gave the Diamondbacks 4 more innings of scoreless baseball. So, I mean, with all things considered, it wasn't great. It didn't, I mean, it would, like, there's no way to like sugarcoat how things started. His very first pitch he threw, he hit a batter, right? And walked in a run. But I mean, you do got to give him some credit for the ability to kind of get back on track there and give the Diamondbacks what he gave them.
Yeah, and that's a great place to start with some of our post-game footage. Torey Lovullo spoke very highly of Jordan Montgomery and what he was able to do in his first outing out of the bullpen. Here's what Torey had to say.
I think a little bit of unfamiliar territory comes in with the bases gassed and very little wiggle room, and to be expected. you just don't know what it's going to feel like when you get into that environment in that situation. Once he got through that first inning, I thought he did a good job attacking the zone. It was 4 into third, 70 pitches. Did his job the way we want him to do his job, and I was really happy for him. Very proud of him for making the adjustment and figuring it out. He's only pitched out of the bullpen once or twice. That's a huge adjustment for somebody that takes 28 to 32 minutes to get ready for his first pitch. He did it in 6.5 minutes. So it was a great job by him, and I made sure he knew that I was appreciative of what he did.
And that was just a need for you.
And I mean, yeah, I mean, this is the exact, like, before the game, Torey talked about how he was going to use Monty, and this was the exact situation. It didn't go great, wasn't ideal, but I mean, he was able to at least save the bullpen going forward and finish the game up.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty much exactly what the Jordan Montgomery role is going to be, at least for the time being. He is the Diamondbacks long man. He is the guy that you turn to when you're maybe down big and your starter is struggling and you don't have a great chance to win a baseball game, but you're just looking to save all of your positive role relievers. And Jordan Montgomery was able to accomplish that here in this game. And you're right, it didn't start pretty. I mean, bases loaded. I think there were 2 outs at that point in the 5th inning. He just needs one pitch to get out of that frame. And as you said, he hits a batter, he forces in a run, he winds up walking the next guy. I think a lot of people in that moment are probably feeling like, all right, this is the same Jordan Montgomery. Nothing's changed just because
maybe even worse.
Bullpen.
Maybe even worse.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't get much worse than entering a game with the bases loaded and plunking the first guy you face and then walking in a run on the next guy. But to Montgomery's credit, he did settle in. He did find a way to save the D-backs bullpen tonight. And here's what Montgomery had to say about his outing and I guess also the process of just having to get ready so quickly in the bullpen.
I felt good. It happened fast. I tried to get ready as quick as I could and went out there a little too amped up. But I guess it could have gone worse.
Was it weird?
Yeah, it was weird. I think my starting routine is like close to 40 minutes. And I just did basically everything in 6, so it was quick.
You know, before the game, Jesse, there was a moment where Montgomery was talking to our pal Jack Summers, and Jack was interviewing him for an article he was writing, and the minute Jack kind of got done, Monty got swarmed by reporters. And I kind of recall, I honestly, like, I hate to say this, I just didn't have anything to ask him or hear from him on, and he kind of echoed that statement. Like, he was like, I haven't pitched, so what would I have to talk to you guys about? And I heard him kind of say that as he walked away. And like, he still answered questions and he still talked to everybody, but like, this is kind of a confusing time for Jordan Montgomery, and he doesn't right now have a lot to say on what's happening. Like, he already made the statement about Scott Boras, and then that turned into a big, kind of a story, right? It turned into a talking point. So it's like, now, I don't know what follow-up questions people would have for him before his outing, but there's not much to bother this man about before the game, considering that this is still an adjustment period for him, and he doesn't know really much about how things were going to go. Tonight he had to get ready quickly, and he came out, and obviously he wasn't sharp when he came out, but he was able to eventually get back on track and be, I guess, a commodity for this team, to give this team a good performance there in the final 4 innings that he pitched. That's a tough situation for any reliever to come into. Bases loaded, middle of the game like that, kind of on a quick notice, right? Like, it was kind of a lot for him. It was an overwhelming situation, and I bet it was a big learning moment for him to kind of figure some things out about himself.
Yeah, and Torey was again, I mean, as you heard a glimpse of there, he was very complimentary of Montgomery and what he was able to do in this game. Torey told us that the day that he had that tough conversation with Montgomery about moving to the bullpen, that Montgomery was already in the bullpen and already trying to ask questions and figure out how he was going to make adjustments and whatnot. So that's another thing that I asked Monty about after the game, just how quickly he was able to turn the page in what has obviously been a pretty difficult season for him, and I'm sure a difficult moment for him having that conversation with Torey. Here's what Montgomery had to say.
It sucks, but I mean, I want to help the team any way I can. We're in a pennant race, and if I can be the long man and maybe turn myself into a leverage arm, get us some big outs, and be a difference maker that way, and then that's just what I'll do this year.
He still looks like a man coming to terms with this, but and again, this is him speaking to the media with cameras on. It still seems like the right attitude to have, even though it's obvious that he's still not okay with it.
Yeah, and I mean, if I were him, like, I wouldn't be okay with it either. I mean, it's hard to understand this from Montgomery's perspective, because on one hand, yeah, the numbers are what they are. There's no debating from a numbers standpoint the decision that the Diamondbacks made, right? It's Ryan Nelson over Jordan Montgomery every day of the week, right? The numbers are just so clear. They got to be so clear that the Diamondbacks basically had no choice but to make the decision that they did.
Right.
But if you're Montgomery, you're still, less than a year removed from being a pitcher that carried your team in a lot of ways to winning the World Series, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, the Astros had no answer for Jordan Montgomery in the ALCS about 10 months ago. And, the velo has been down a little bit. We've talked about that. The command has not been quite the same. But if I'm Jordan Montgomery, like, I still have the confidence, at least some semblance of the confidence that I had when I was dominating on the biggest stage less than a year ago. And so you can understand from his perspective how, like, this is a tough pill to swallow, for as obvious as it might seem to all of us that this was the right decision to make. Like, this has got to be a really hard thing for him to walk through, especially someone like him who's just been the model of consistency. Like, I think that was the biggest selling point for Montgomery entering the season, is that you know what you're getting. Maybe you're not getting a number one starter, but you know what you're getting. This isn't even Blake Snell, where, his top end is obviously elite. He won the Cy Young last year for a reason. But Blake Snell in his down years is not actually that great of a pitcher sometimes. Montgomery did not come in with that reputation. So it's been a tough year for him. I know he said some things that maybe he would like to have back.
Sure.
But yeah, I can't imagine what it's like for him to go through such a quick change from being at the top of his game and pitching well in so many big moments to what he's been this year.
I think the only thing he would take back is the fact that a lot of the stuff that he said comes off as excuses, but I don't even really fault him for the things he said, because he's right and he's being honest. The Chase Field is miserable some nights with the heat. We all live in this state. This state is fucking miserable sometimes with the goddamn heat, right? Like, we can all admit that, and we can be okay with it. And we can all say that we've been in Chase Field, even with the AC cranked, and felt a little uncomfortable, right? We can also say that we can agree that a man that was supposed to get a long-term deal based on the performances that you're talking about in the World Series last year should have gotten the long-term contract that he was seeking, and not this basic one-year deal with a player option that he ended up with the Diamondbacks. His feelings about Scott Boras were aired, and they were backed up by the fact that he fired the man. There's no doubt that he was unhappy with it. He wouldn't have fired Scott Boras if he was happy with it. It's just a bunch of factors, I think, that are contributing to all of these things. Not to mention the fact that he did tell our friend Jack today that he was that there was possibly some problems with his mechanics and, like, overstriding potentially and things like that. And those are things that I think we as fans don't realize, that sometimes, like, that little thing in their mechanics that is different now is the problem, or, they were trying something different, or maybe they were told to do something different. I mean, he is here with a new pitching coach, and maybe sometimes the adjustments that someone like Brent Strom is trying to make for you isn't something that you take to right away, or maybe it's messed his game up or whatever, right? Like, pitching is complicated, and there's a lot of things that go into it. And those little mechanical changes that they make to their delivery can impact the success they're having. And that could be a reason why as well. But I think, unfortunately now the perception with some fans is that he's made a lot of excuses. And obviously, fans that are of this team are not happy with the amount of money that the Diamondbacks spent on him. And I'm sure the team is not happy with the amount of money they spent on him and what they're getting in return. Hopefully, though, he can still contribute. And hopefully we get to a point where at some point in the playoffs, from now until the Diamondbacks aren't playing baseball anymore, that we go, damn, Jordan Montgomery really saved the day. And I don't know if we've had that moment at all. Like, he's had some good outings as a starter. It's not like it's all been a complete disaster, but yes, the Diamondbacks had to move on and make the right decision in regards to going with him or Ryan Nelson, considering the way Ryan Nelson is pitching. And there's no doubt there. There's no doubt there that they did make the right decision. But again, he's going to continue to be a weapon for this team. And tonight, despite everything that went wrong for this team in the 5th inning, he still had, you know, at least a display there of what he can be, what he can contribute as a long reliever out of the pen.
Yeah, and I think you make a good point about the playoffs. Like, Montgomery is someone who has a lot of experience on that stage. Is he going to be a part of the Diamondbacks 4-man postseason rotation? Right now, it looks like he very likely will not be. You know, I think there is also a valid question to be asked of whether he would even make the Diamondbacks postseason roster. I think he probably would, but I that's not necessarily a guarantee based on how things have gone so far. But I could envision a scenario where Montgomery is on that postseason roster. And as you alluded to there, he does come through maybe in a big situation. If the Diamondbacks are going to make a deep playoff run, like they did a year ago, they're going to have a few clunkers from their starting pitchers. It happened last year, right? If you go back and look at Brandon Pfaadt's numbers in game 1 of that wild card series, it was not a pretty game for him. And there are a lot of other, at least several other examples like that throughout the postseason. So, you know, even if Montgomery is not the guy who was so big for the Rangers last year, maybe he can come into some of those spots and hold down a game for a D-backs offense that has shown a lot of ability this season to come back in games and, you know, find their way to claw back. So, maybe there is still a world where Montgomery has an impact in the playoffs, even if it's not what we all envisioned entering the season.
Before we move on from this game, Jesse, I asked the chat this, and I have to ask you this. Despite being down 8-0 when the Diamondbacks scored 3 runs in the 7th, did you start to believe? Did you start to go, maybe?
I'm not gonna lie, Derek. The first thing that came to my mind after Corbin's home run was that, and granted, I didn't look this up to confirm, but I'm pretty sure that an 8-run comeback would be at least tied for the largest comeback in franchise history. I want to say it would be the largest comeback in franchise history. And that was the first thing that, like, those are the questions that were running
that you start asking.
Because you get 3 in the 7th, you get 3 in the 8th, you get 3 in the 9th. Like, who knows, right? We've seen the Diamondbacks do some outrageous things this season, and we saw it even a couple days ago. A game that, granted, they were not down 8, they were just down 4 in that one, but they found a way to come back and win anyway. So this is a team that you really can't count out in any situation. At the same time, like, looking at the lineup that the Diamondbacks are going with on a day-to-day basis, I'm not going to say it's a bad lineup, because they just are scoring like 6-7 runs almost every game, it feels like. But at the same time, like, just objectively, a lineup that has Geraldo Perdomo at the 1 spot, McCarthy in the 2 spot, you know, Lourdes hitting 3rd, just going down the list, it doesn't look to me like an elite lineup, right? And I think we do have to be realistic about, like, the lack of Christian Walker and Gabriel Moreno and Ketel Marte. It's going to be hard for that lack not to show up at all, right? And this felt like a game where you did feel that a little bit. There isn't quite as much star power in this lineup as we're used to seeing, and games like this are going to happen for sure.
And the difficulty of the schedule ahead is something to be considered with those guys missing, right? They might lose some games here, and there might, honestly, you might look back on all the games they won without those guys and think maybe they shouldn't have won as many as they did. Like, that's the more surprising thing here than the fact that the Diamondbacks might still lose some more before they get those guys back. But we did get some updates today, including a slightly confusing one on Christian Walker. Christian Walker, we were told by Torey Lovullo, could be back by this weekend, but then he was saying in a basically controlled environment, not against the Dodgers, which I'm sure made the Dodgers very happy.
Yeah, it was a little bit hard to really glean a lot of information there. My takeaway is, I would guess in some ways that there is no takeaway. Like, Torey didn't really confirm or reject anything when he was talking about Christian Walker today.
Right.
He did, as you said, he talked about how there was an idea that Walker could play in games this weekend, and then he later clarified, talking about some sort of controlled environment. I think these would be games out at Salt River Fields. But he was asked specifically about September 1st, which is coming up this weekend during the Dodgers series,
Right.
and whether that could be a target date for Walker to come back and rejoin the team. And his initial reaction was it could be sooner than later. And then he also said, but it could be after September 1st. I don't know. So again, there wasn't a lot of concrete information there, but I wouldn't rule out entirely the possibility that Walker could play at least a portion of the Dodgers series this weekend.
And I think, of course, that was part of it, is that Torey said he could be back by the Dodgers series. I think that's something that Gambo had reported, but could be leaves it kind of open to interpretation, not to mention the fact that Jesse and I had a disagreement about what it means to be back by the Dodgers series. I said that if he's back by the final game, that counts as being back by the Dodgers series. Jesse completely disagrees with that notion, but these are the arguments we have on the baseball field while we're waiting for other things to happen. But a lot of other injury updates as well, including Ketel and Gabby Moreno, but still kind of unclear on when we can expect those guys back. It's nice to hear, though, Torey did say Ketel is asymptomatic now.
Yeah, he said at least like mostly asymptomatic. It sounds like there are some movements that they haven't had Ketel try yet as he continues to sort of build things back up. He mentioned playing with spikes as a particular point of emphasis here, some like a box that they definitely want to check. It sounds like that was an issue the last time around where Ketel seemed to be totally fine with the ankle, doing his pregame work and whatnot, and then in the game with spikes on, it was a little bit different. So that's something that they definitely want to double check this time around. So I feel pretty confident saying that Ketel will not play in the Dodgers series. That's sort of my interpretation, not Torey's exact words, but Ketel is first eligible to be off the IL in a couple of days here, but he still has some boxes to check. I think it's going to be not necessarily a super long time, but I think it's going to be a little while before we see Ketel back with the Major League team.
Meanwhile, one of our diehards had a report, Jesse, breaking news on Gabriel Moreno. According to an autograph signing, Gabriel Moreno said he would be back in 2 weeks.
Interesting.
What are your feelings on that? Do you think that is just Gabriel Moreno playing?
Do you think that the listener of our show is a liar, Jesse? That's what Derek's asking.
I'm just trying. What do you think of the truth to that statement? I'm not saying the listener of our show is the liar. I'm saying Gabby might be the liar, but that seems pretty early considering what we know about Moreno's injury.
Yeah, I mean, again, we don't have a ton of concrete information there. Torey just said today that Gabby swung in the cage today and that they continue to be cautious with how he uses his lower half. I mean, for a catcher in particular, like a groin injury is really tough. Obviously, doing what a catcher does, there's a lot of strain. Just staying in a squat position for that long. So, yeah, I don't think the D-backs have much of a reason to be really aggressive with Moreno, especially with the way that Adrian Del Castillo has played lately. So the 2-week thing, I mean, if Gabby said it, I'm sure there must be something there. But it sounds maybe a little bit more optimistic than I would expect.
And again, I mean, we don't really know because like sometimes Torey is honest with us. He's like, I feel one way, but things are going another way. Like I think the overall idea here with all of these guys that are injured is that they are all far too valuable to potentially lose for the rest of the season and the postseason. So they would rather be cautious with them now leading up to the stretch that they need them to be healthy for, rather than try to get them back as soon as possible and kind of rush them returning.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, frankly, you're pretty much one setback from any of those three guys being potentially not available for the playoffs. And that's just something that you cannot have. Granted, the risk there, I think, is certainly bigger with Moreno than with the other two guys. But with any of these players, I mean, obliques can be sort of scary, lingering injuries. None of these things are issues that you want to mess with, especially given that the D-backs, they're in a very different position than they were a year ago. Like their chance of making the playoffs is still, I believe, over 90%, even after losing this game today. They're still in a really good position as far as getting into the playoffs. They don't have to go all out in the way that they did toward the end of last year. I remember Gabby Moreno basically starting every single game down the stretch because there just wasn't any margin for error. That's not the case in 2024.
We did have one more update from Torey Lovullo, one that a lot of fans probably aren't going to like, but we tried to get confirmation from Torey, you did, on Justin Martinez officially being named the closer of this team, or why the team wasn't going to name the closer, Jesse. And it sounds like Torey's still stuck on one man. It sounds like Torey still can't get over one man being his closer, and that's Paul Sewald. And I don't know how people are going to feel about that, but we can say that Paul Sewald has even come into middle relief, low leverage situations and not looked very good. We do know that when Sewald was put into non-safe situations, he was also not very good. So that might track. But what are your thoughts here on like Justin Martinez kind of just being the temporary closer, but Torey still wanting to give that mantle back to Sewald?
I mean, at this point, Derek, we're almost a month into Justin Martinez being the Diamondbacks closer. Like, for all intents and purposes, in terms of how, like, the decisions that Torey Lovullo is making on a day-to-day basis with how he runs this team, Justin Martinez has been the closer for the last 3 weeks. I refuse to call it anything else, regardless of what Torey wants to say. But yes, I asked once again today. This is something that came up a couple of weeks ago as well. I asked, is it safe to call Justin Martinez your closer at this point? And Torey continued to say no, that he still thinks that the best Diamondbacks bullpen has Paul Sewald at the end, or has Paul Sewald in that closing spot, and that he really wants to see Sewald emerge and regain that role. And you can understand, like, it was a hard decision for the D-backs to move Sewald out of that spot. Something that I think they maybe had to do just given what was going on the field. But when they made that decision, they clearly wanted to see Sewald get back into that role. And, based on what we've seen from Sewald recently, I'm not sure that he's necessarily earned that. It still looked pretty shaky to me, but that's still what the D-backs are saying, at least publicly, that they want Sewald back in that role. And we'll see. I mean, it doesn't seem impossible to me that happens at some point here in this last month.
I think the only reason why that's hard to believe is even though Justin Martinez hasn't been perfect, he still at times is damn good for this team in that role. And, I mean, it's the experience, right? Like, the more experience he has, the better he's going to get at it, the more use he's going to get to it. He's only 22 years old, so he's only going to get better. And I mean, I don't see a reason why, unless he becomes a detriment to the team, unless he can't do his job, I don't see a reason to change it. But that's just me, and I'm a logical person who believes in common sense and results. What do I know? But speaking of results, Yilber Diaz still getting some good results for the Arizona Diamondbacks organization as a member of the Reno Aces, Jesse. He absolutely shoved tonight.
He did, yeah. If you're looking for some positive news on this Tuesday night,
we'll give you some good news before we go.
we got some positive news. Yeah, 6 2/3 innings from Yilber Diaz tonight. I believe he allowed 4 hits, 2 runs. One of those was earned. Did not walk anyone. Had 13 strikeouts. A really, really impressive start once again for Diaz. His ERA in AAA is now just above 3, and he's made 4 starts in AAA since the Diamondbacks sent him down. He has an ERA under 3 in those 4 starts. So he continues to be a guy who is available for this team should they need any more starting pitching depth. If they want to try converting someone else to a reliever, Yilber Diaz could still factor in down the stretch for sure.
Well, that's another pitcher that could give the Diamondbacks, I guess, good problems to have, good decisions that they have to make. But for now, the Diamondbacks have plenty of depth there, and we'll see how that factors in. Of course, regardless of what Torey said there about his closer, I'm still saying Justin Martinez is the closer. And that's because sometimes Torey Lovullo lies. That's what I'm saying. I'm throwing it out there. Torey Lovullo lies sometimes. I never lie because I'm your mayor. Of course, I'm a trusted official. Elect me come November. Damon, truth teller. Jesse,
borderline.
Jesse, known fibber.
Espo,
Esper,
huge liar.
Huge liar. Don't believe anything Espo ever says. But the numbers, you can trust the numbers. Numbers never lie. Jesse, what do you have for tonight's number?
Tonight's number is 394. That's 0.394. And this is something that we actually haven't touched on, at least not since I hopped on the show. 394 is Randall Grishik's slugging percentage this year against lefties. And this is interesting to me because Grishik has actually slugged decently well against righties this season. His slugging percentage against righties is actually quite a bit higher. But when the Diamondbacks signed Grishik over the offseason, the goal was for him to come in and hit in the middle of the lineup against lefties and do all kinds of damage. And it hasn't really happened that way this season. And it's not to say that Grishik has been a terrible addition for this team. Like I said before, he's actually really held his own against righties, which has really helped his value and made him, a guy that Torey can use in more situations, or maybe feels comfortable using in more situations. But you compare Grishik's numbers against lefties this season to where they were the last couple of years, it's a pretty big difference. Entering today, Grishik had a 764 OPS against left-handed pitching. Compare that to a 995 OPS against lefties last year and a 926 OPS against lefties the year before that. And of course, Grishik today went 0 for 3 against Sean Manaea, batting fifth in the lineup, and he basically just hit 3 pop flies. He just seems to be getting way too far underneath the ball. So it's been a rough stretch for Grishik. He has a 619 OPS since July 7th entering today. So it's just been a bit of a rough patch for him. Not really sounding any alarm bells or anything here, but just sort of thinking ahead to the playoffs, Reno Grishik is going to be used in some big spots. Like the playoffs are often come down to a few key matchups, and Grishik is supposed to be a weapon for this Diamondbacks team against lefties, where if you've got a tough matchup late in the game against a really good left-handed reliever, or maybe comes in to face Jock Peterson or whatever, the D-backs are going to have Randall Grishik available on the bench in some of those situations, and you want to feel good about him in those spots. And he hasn't quite been that guy, at least not so far this season.
Yeah. Well, and playing time might be a factor there for Randall Grishik and some of these other guys, of course, but again, that just only further confirms my point that the Diamondbacks shouldn't win the National League West Division. Anyway, that's all we got for you guys. We appreciate you stopping by. We will see you tomorrow with another post-game show from Chase Field, or at least one of us will be from Chase Field. I'll let you guess which one. In the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter. I'm at cap_caveman with a K. Of course, Jesse is at Jesse N. Friedman. Damon, the People's Producer, is at Damon Dog. He's always at Damon Dog, and that's DAWG. We are Damon's dogs. Bark, bark. We do have some super chats that I don't believe I read. Did I get to all of those, Damon, or is there? Oh, okay. Nicholas Gruters. Nicholas Gruters has an excellent question, Jesse. Once again, confirming what I said. This just confirms the point. Why do we suck after off days? Also, is Pfaadt getting gassed? 4+ runs in 4 of his last 5 starts. He's never thrown this many innings at this level. Still don't know why we suck after days off. Maybe it's just the day off. Maybe it's just the not playing baseball and coming back to it. No way for us to really know that. But what do you think about that final part there about Brandon Pfaadt? Do you think he's getting a little he has been the Diamondbacks' most consistent starting pitcher this year by far.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. Pfaadt's innings total is definitely getting up there. But he has also thrown a lot of innings in the minor leagues as well. Nicholas is right that this is the most innings he's thrown at this level. But if you look at some of his numbers in the minors in the past, if I can pull these up real quick, Pfaadt has thrown quite a few innings in the minors as well. Looking at 2022, he threw 167 innings down between AA and AAA. And then last season, he threw 60 2/3 innings in AAA before being called up, or I guess in between his call-ups. And then he threw another 96 innings during the regular season, and he threw I want to say 25 or so in the playoffs. So you add all of that together and you're at a pretty big number. That would be pushing 180 roughly. And he's at 154.2 right now. So it is a lot of innings at this level for sure. But I think he's about as well equipped as any young up and coming pitcher to take on that workload. So I wouldn't be overly concerned about that. I think Pfaadt, for the most part throughout this season, is just kind of gone in. He's just sort of ebbed and flowed a little bit. He started the year a little bit slow and then he went on a nice run. And now you've seen him have a few kind of tough starts in a row. This is just kind of the way it's going to be. Pfaadt has still been a really valuable asset for this team this season. And I wouldn't be too concerned about a few uncharacteristic starts in a row.
Ernesto wants to know, does basically losing Gabby do anything for this team? Like, is the loss of Gabby possibly impacting the pitching?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, we've heard really nothing but good things about Jose Herrera in terms of his pitch calling and his willingness to really.
I'm sorry to cut you off. One of Pfaadt's, I think it was one of Pfaadt's strikeouts. I felt like Jose Herrera caused the call to happen because he so confidently grabbed a ball that was out of the strike zone and then just walked off like it was the end without even waiting for the umpire to make the call. And I was like, did Herrera influence the umpire to make that strike 3 call? It was kind of wild, right? But yeah, no, I'm sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, yeah, I don't think that there is Herrera is he's not the best framer receiver necessarily. And Gabby is not necessarily perfect in that regard either. But yeah, I mean, we've heard about Zach Gallen and the rapport that he's been able to build with Herrera over the years and how it sounds like Torey might even kind of prefer to have Jose Herrera catch the Zach Gallen starts. Yeah. So I wouldn't read into that too much. Maybe they got crossed up a few times today or had some disagreements in certain moments. The reality is that Pfaadt just didn't really have great fastball command in this game. Yeah. And he talked about that after the game and how when you don't have great fastball command, it just makes it harder to set up all of your secondary stuff. And no matter what pitch you're calling, if you don't have the ability to really execute those pitches, it's going to be a rough night.
I know it wasn't another super chat, Damon, but there was another start chat up there that was very, very important, I believe, up there in the start chats. I think it was, it's gone now. It's gone now. Did you? Okay. All right. Well, he'll find it and he'll throw it up there. And it's extremely important because it's basically that, it was from Ryan right there. There it is. That's the one. Benedict Friedman. Yep. That's right. We're talking about you tonight. You better pick a side, Jesse. You better pick a side. It better be the right side is all I'm saying.
The ease of which Jesse threw Derek to the side and joined Espo's campaign this morning.
Effortless with zero resistance, as if Jesse has been waiting for this opportunity.
He's been waiting for the opportunity to hop off the Derek for mayor bandwagon.
As if I didn't make you a vice mayor, you ingrate. Piece of Yoshi in the chat says they're coming for Jerry's all-star selection. What?
They can never take that away from us.
They can't take that away from us. Ever. They never will. But thank you for your super chat. And thank you for those of you that have, for your loyalty, I guess I should say. Thank you for those of you that have committed to my campaign and my reelection. But of course, this is just the beginning. And I've just started, Espo. Do you understand me? I have only just begun, Greg Esposito. All right. Well, you can follow our show. It's at PHNX_DBacks, but all roads do lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. That's all we got. We'll see you tomorrow for another post-game show and hopefully a much happier one. We appreciate you stopping by. We thank you so much for your time. We'll see you tomorrow. And until then, remember, kids, have yourselves a fun night. Baseball's fun, but it's way more fun when you do this thing that we call winning and not getting your ass kicked by the Mets.
We all silly like the mayor.